welcome to the Bearhug Club, a pro wrestling podcast of positivity.
Hello, everybody. It's 6:30 p.m. GMT on Wednesday, which means it's time for Wednesday Night Paw here at the Bearhug Club podcast. Greg here once again, and this week I'm just joined by Garrod. How's it going, Garrod?
It's going pretty good. It's going pretty well.
Good.
It's going pretty good.
No, Jay Scott this week. We're going old school, just the two of us.
Oh yeah, the OGs.
The early episodes, just me and Dee.
Hey Garrod, do you want to do a wrestling podcast with me on the thing? Yeah, right. There you go.
Yeah,
It wasn't our first episode. We didn't use StreamYard. We used just Audacity, didn't we?
Yeah. We didn't used to go live.
We just joined a Discord and then just did it.
Just cranked it out. I mean, and in kind of a fitting way around that, we talked about AEW games in that first episode, and this week's episode we're just going to be talking about all wrestling games in general. I guess let's start off then. So, I mean, obviously wrestling is quite important to the both of us. How important are video games to you?
I'm a very sad person, Greg. I'm a very sad man. You can see in my... not even hung up, but just a custom lightsaber over there. That one's not mine. This one is. Anyway, I'm a very sad man. Most of my life events I can trace back to a game I was playing at the time or a thing. I remember the first console my dad stole for me. It was a Game Boy. And I remember the second one. It was a PlayStation. I remember getting my PlayStation 2, driving to Plymouth Toys R Us, and then just reading the box the entire way back. Video games are pretty important to me. I remember playing my first wrestling game across the road at someone I don't even know anymore, a kid called Liam. His older brother was out, and we just played his N64, and it was just I was like, this is amazing. I can't remember if I played wrestling before I watched it properly, you know. But yeah, gaming is fairly important to me. I think it's as mediums go, it's probably the best one.
I think I agree. I think what's going to be fun about this episode is obviously we'll mainly be sticking to the wrestling side of it, but I think it's quite nice that we can be a bit more open with the conversation, just to talk about something that I think we're both keen lovers of. You know, it's something that we're both massively interested in. Do you identify as a gamer then?
Sure, I guess.
Sure.
I don't know if the terminology is still hardcore gamer, but I'm looking at my 90,000 gamer score now, and I guess that. Yeah, I mean, part of the reason I took a job at a secondhand shop up in London is because I was able to just get a discount on everything and rent games instead of buying them, which you can't do these days, really. There's no really game rentals. I suppose you've got the Game Passy stuff, which counts as that.
Yeah,
I suppose in essence, Netflix is renting films, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Netflix is essentially like a digital blockbuster, but you're just paying that one fee. It's kind of the same principle. I mean, that's kind of the thing they're trying to do now with video games. Obviously, PlayStation side, is it PlayStation Now? I think that they were one of the first to try and jump on streaming games, because I got it when it came out.
They did. It didn't work too well.
Oh, no, still got it.
When I first used it, it didn't. But it was the only way for you to play PlayStation 3 games on PS4 and things like that, which is just not how it should be.
When it launched, it was, if you played a PS2 game on the service, it was fine. You could run that fairly well. But yeah, I tried playing BioShock Infinite when I first got it, and it just lagged to hell. Back then you needed the best internet connection imaginable.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose
for a lot of people that's just impossible.
I suppose the difference between that and Game Pass is that Game Pass can be streamed via cloud gaming, but it doesn't have to be. Whereas PS Now is, I think, just streamed. I don't think you get to just. You might now be able to download it, but that was
I
more
think you
designed
can.
just for streaming.
They don't seem to advertise it much, but I had a friend recently who wanted insight into what, if you should get a PS4, and that was one of the selling points, was getting that. And I said, we looked into it, and like, apparently it's a lot better than it was, and you can download certain titles, but it's still got a long way to go. I think like it's clear that like the idea like with consoles now is that they're moving everything from physical to digital, and streaming will be a part of that, but we're still a bit out the way before the technology can actually keep up and it can run things like smoothly.
Yeah. Hold on.
Yeah. You okay
messaging
there?
my brother I'm just messaging my brother to, instead of having someone yell at me to come downstairs, just bring whatever it is to me. Yeah, gaming's a pretty important part of my life. I think it is a still yet untapped medium that is this hybrid between like theater, film, everything, right? It's all mediums in one, and then you get to choose what you do and what happens. And no game better does that than a wrestling game, where you get to literally, plan out your own match and either play it competitively, where you're just like, spamming buttons and not using your stamina, or you're like we used to play, you specifically don't go for the pin at the start, because a wrestler wouldn't do that. They haven't worn them down. What's the point? That's not what you're going for. You're going for the best story.
Absolutely. We'll kickstart it then. Can you remember what the very first wrestling game was that you ever played? Like, you kind of mentioned it a bit at the beginning there.
I was too young to know exactly what it was. It was an N64 game. I must have been...
Just say No Mercy and just have the cool cred about it.
It might have been 2000. I might have been 2000 and not No Mercy. Because I'm trying to think about the time frame. I was like 5 or 6. And 2000 seems about right.
Yeah.
It was probably... I'm going to go with 2000, or it might have been No Mercy, but my brain can't tell the difference between those two now. Like, now I could, but back then, no, mush brain.
Yeah, I think in sort of a similar parallel, like my earliest memories of both wrestling and video games were through like playing wrestling video games. Like for me, it was the very first SmackDown game. But like one of my brothers was still very loosely into wrestling, and he just about passed that baton as I was like that age. I would have been about 7 or something. So yeah, the first very one was SmackDown, which was obviously tremendous game, because like we only have had a PlayStation growing up, so I did not get to experience any of the classic N64 titles until a couple of years ago, but would have definitely been SmackDown. And then basically I've followed that entire series all the way up into the dumpster fire that was 2K20, which I still have a copy of down there because I'm a collector and I'm a freak like that. PS1, SmackDown, tremendous game, one of my favorites. I suppose then, like, go off then. So, what would some of your favorite wrestling titles be?
I mean, my favorite titles aren't the good ones. Some of my favorite wrestling titles, I spoke about it, as like 2K18, 17, 18, 19, probably.
They're not bad titles though. Like, that's the thing.
They're not bad, but they're not great. Like,
the only thing you can really criticize about them is they suffer from like FIFA syndrome. Like,
sure, it has to come out each year.
Much. Yeah.
Well, I think it's a skeleton crew that does it. They don't get much money to do it. They are just like having to pump it out again and again and again. Even the Battlegrounds one. Was it called Battlegrounds? What the fuck did they call it? I think it was called Battlegrounds.
Yeah.
The bobblehead one, right? The bobblehead one itself is like quite vapid. There's not much to it. Like, I think every wrestler's entrance is the same. or something like that. Some dumb shit like they're so similar.
I never played it, but I heard apparently control-wise, like they all just handle the same. Like it's not at least say what you want about like the 2K series. At least the wrestlers like felt like who they were, whereas apparently Battlegrounds was more or less. It was just like it didn't matter who you picked, you were more or less doing the same kind of moves.
I think they did a good job of. Well, okay, so have you ever seen like any of the background, like or behind the scenes of wrestlers doing their own mocap and things like that?
No, can't say I have.
So I think Leo Rush actually did some mocap for. I don't think it was AEW. I think it might have been the new WWE game, 2K21.
Oh,
Or
it
would
could
it be
be a
2K22?
game. It could be another wrestling game I want to bring up later on when we talk about future stuff. But yeah,
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, I think they do a very good job of most of the game is just animation. And in that you get to really show off a wrestler's personality. Because what I often find in those 2K games and pretty much every wrestling game is that once they've done a move and then they get up, the walk cycle is just kind of the same as everyone else, and then they'll do like a roll the shoulder and whatever. It's exactly the same. It's exactly the same. But they keep everything in the animation constantly, that it just does feel like that wrestler is doing things, and every animation is so it's really meticulous to make sure that like that's the case. And the 2K games, you can tell that even though it's a skeleton crew, there's so much love there. In the, sure, they can't call it a rainmaker, but it's in the game. Sure, you can't call that like his signature taunt, but it's in the game. So many moves and things are in there that like maybe you weren't exactly licensed, but they know it's like, yeah, we're fans. We would want this. Everyone else wants this. Let's put it in the fucking game. And I think that's why I clicked with it so much. It's when I got back into wrestling, beginning of uni. I played with a bunch of friends, and we would just go to Bert's, which was the local fish and chip shop 2 doors down, past the Turkish barbers who would also cut our hair. So we'd get a haircut, and we'd go to Bert's, and then we'd come back, design characters for like 5 hours, and then just like probably go back to Bert's again, and then come back with another chicken and chips, a breast and a side breast, and then chips, and then probably just simulate an entire year's worth of wrestling. And then by the end of it, it's like, me versus Jey Uso for the Universal title or whatever.
Or was it the Dweller, right? You made the Dweller and he was like max stats and no one...
He's like 9 feet tall, max stats. Yeah. It did become like that. It got a bit wacky towards the end. Yeah. We were really like, we got to like, we kind of prided ourselves on our characters, and we were just like, all right, no one is allowed to be above 90. You had to be exactly 90. And, I was kind of like, I don't know. I min-maxed my character so much that I like found moves that like specifically targeted the arm, because my finisher was an arm bar, and like, it's. I was so into it that I was like, when I was training wrestling, like real life, I would use the game, and I'm sure a bunch of wrestlers have done this before. I'd use the game to be like, I like that move. I would love that in my actual real life move set, and. Like, genuinely, were I to go and wrestle again, I could load up WWE 2K18, and everything the character does is things that I would do. It's exactly how I would wrestle, and I think the other guys were the same. It's a good outlet of that fantasy, because everyone who watches wrestling is like, I would want to be a wrestler. I don't think that's an out of the pocket things to say,
No, I think you're right. I think that's one thing that wrestling video games, especially when it got to the like late 90s, because like as people might have seen on the website, I've been doing a few articles in the build up to this. So once the like late 90s hit and the creation suites were where they could be and they could introduce that element, the big selling point of a lot of games was, oh yeah, like you can put yourself in this game, or you can build whoever the hell you want and put it in the game. And I think that's like a good trend to continue. I mean, like you were saying there, like it's very blatantly obvious that they have so many moves and attire options because there's wrestlers that they want to put in the game, but they can't. But that's their sneaky workaround. It's like, well, someone else will build it for you, and you can just go ahead and download it. I think that's why, Fire Pro World has become such a hugely popular game. Like, fair enough, graphic-wise, it's obviously a lot more limited to the 2K series, but then because of that, like, the creations on that are just out of this world, and they keep adding new stuff. Like, you can create entrances on it now, you can create moves. It's insane, the level of customization, and I think that's something that wrestling games have always been a massive champion of.
Yeah. I would love to see the timeline of creations in games. I really think wrestling games were a big pioneer of this kind of theme.
I think they still are now, really. Like, I can't think of any other game that has the level of customization that a 2K has. I mean, the fact that you can do stuff like just position like the size of eyes from the pupil all the way to like the length, and you can move them just up and around the head and stuff. Like, things like that you just don't see in a lot of, even like things like, RPG games where customization is like meant to be a big factor as well.
Yeah, I mean, the 2K games, to their credit, and I think they've done this, I think this is in like the NBA games and things like that as well. But I would love to know, because a lot of games have tried this where it's like, okay, upload a picture and it can be your emblem or whatever. Whereas in this, it's like, upload a picture, we'll do a face scan of that, and then you can, move the topography of the face to line it up, and then it's like, all right, do another one, and it can be God, what could it be? On your ring attire, it can be a tattoo, it can be on the apron, it can be on the turnbuckle, it could be on the announcer's desk, it could be on it could be your Titantron. You can upload goddamn images to like put over your Titantron and like your logos and whatever. And it's mad. And then obviously you can upload that to the creator thing, and your friends could download you, and yeah, madness. It's great. That's why those are my favorite, the 2Ks.
I mean, I think you're right. I think like the 2K series got a lot of flack, and I kind of disagree that there was a skeleton crew behind it, because one of the big reasons why they lost Ukes is because, well, for anyone who might not know video games mass well, Ukes are essentially like the wrestling video game developer. Like, when it got to the late 90s, they not only did the WWE license, but they've done a host of different wrestling games. Some that might surprise you as well. I'm looking at Rumble Roses, which is, if you're a fan of the Dead or Alive series, that's all I really need to say. But yeah, I think, and one of the reasons they left during that development cycle was because they were bored of having to, because more or less to their words, it was like, we were just basically releasing the same game every year, but it was like slightly updated with a new roster. So I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people are quite excited now because they're with AEW now, aren't they? They're making the AEW game, yeah. And judging from the footage we've seen, it looks like they're just happy to have those shackles released so they can make something brand new. Like, they can try and take things to the next stage. I think that's why the SmackDown series in particular, given they had that all the way from the first SmackDown to 2K20, they had those little hidden elements of like, oh yeah, you can get a card as moves in there, but we're not going to call them a card as moves. Do you think now that someone else will be taking over the 2K license, that element might be stripped back a little bit? Or do you think they're going to keep things more or less the same?
I don't know. I wish. I don't think that
I think it depends who they're actually getting to develop it. Are they having people who are actually fans of wrestling who care about the product they're putting out?
I need to know, like, if there's a new engine, if they're, starting from scratch or just basically taking from the previous year. Because let's be real, not really much has changed since 2016 up until, 2K20. If anything, it's gone downhill and like features have been removed. So I don't think much is we'll notice much on this one, perhaps in future ones. I mean, this happens a lot with game development. It gets given to a studio who don't really have a passion for the project. My theory is that a lot of people that went into game design probably watched WrestleMania as a kid. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that there's a bit of an overlap there, because I'm sure the Venn diagrams, line up for that.
I mean, there's a strong correlation between gaming nerds and wrestling nerds. Like, they typically go hand in hand. Case in point, you and me. Boom.
Hold on, wait. Mwah. Mwah.
No, I mean the thing is with the new next 2K is so far all we had was that little teaser trailer at WrestleMania, and I mean to be honest, it just looks like it's business as usual. I'm hoping, given that it's getting to the point where they'll start hopefully releasing information, because I remember when they announced that they were pulling 2K21 because of how much of a dumpster fire 2K20 was, but then they did they seem to be trying to restore it by doing like a fan poll, basically saying, okay, what do you guys want to see when we bring the game back? And obviously top of that list was GM mode. And there was a bunch of other stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see if they've actually listened to the fans and if they're going to try and bring back some of these old features that people have been clamoring for, or if they're just going to completely ignore it. Because a 2K, the one with the basketball game recently where they got into a lot of heat with people because they were putting adverts directly into the game.
I believe 2K have the NBA license, yeah.
Yeah, so that was the thing. Like you would be playing, I think just like the season mode, but then like an actual TV ad would appear in the game when you were waiting for stuff. I could easily see that happening. You're playing through universe mode. And
we already have
Snickers.
that. The Snickers and stuff is already in it.
But that's like,
but it's not as intrusive,
dressing.
I suppose. Yeah. It's part of it.
You're not getting an advert where it's like some celebrity being raggy and then they give them a Snickers and then all of a sudden they're just like a regular person again. You know what I mean?
I don't know if this is a devil's advocate thing, but in this specifically, if it's, I guess it depends how intrusive it is. If I'm playing the story mode, I'm playing the story mode and it's like, okay, your character has, it's like, contract negotiations or whatever. And it's like, okay, we've got adverts for you. And then it's like, pick a brand. And then it's, you go and do an advert in a little mini game. I would probably eat it up. At the end of it, I'd be like, oh, I'm never buying Snickers again. But during it, I'd be like, this is quaint. But no, it will most likely be you load into an online game and then at the end of it and beginning of it, it's just like Snickers we're really singling out Snickers, but it's always Snickers. It is always Snickers.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically been in the backdrop of the 2K game since 2K took over the license, I think.
Yeah.
Just zoom into the crowd and there's always a Snickers logo hanging there.
There was that time that Final Fantasy sponsored WWE at WrestleMania 33, 4, 3. I forget. One of them.
Mean,
and then Gears of War sponsored them at another one. A whole thing.
Yeah, but I mean,
a whole thing.
They've never appeared in the games. Snickers has definitely appeared in the games.
Yeah.
It's amazing. After going on a journey through a lot of bizarre lookable characters, there wasn't just like the idea to put like just a Snickers bar as a playable character.
Mm.
Well, while we're kind of on the topic then, with 2K coming back, what would your kind of big wants be for the game? Like, what do you want to see added to it or return? What do you not want to see?
I would like a story mode with some choice. Mm-hmm. Dedicated story modes for both a male and female character.
I feel for the story mode, they just need to go back and play some of the earlier titles, because fair enough, it wasn't like the most like in-depth story mode, but like you go back and play even like SmackDown 2 and at least it's like fun and interesting. And I'm pretty sure even back then it wasn't like totally repetitive. You know what I mean? It wasn't like completely linear. So that's kind of what I'd like to see story-wise, for sure.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to... They tried a few things and some of it was okay and kind of funny and whatever. More cutscenes, more behind the scenes, interesting things where like maybe halfway through the campaign, you get fired and you go and do indie shows and like you know, because like maybe they do like a you're a Drew McIntyre type character, right? Where your character isn't working. And then they have you go to the indies, reinvent your character, and then debut against people who beat you or something, and then again work your way to the top. I'd like some kind of narrative going on. I'm big on story modes.
That could work perfectly, given that they're in partnership with so many indies.
Dude, imagine they were like, oh, here's progress, and then they could do a sneaky little like, oh, here's some progress wrestlers. We'll just drop them in there. That would be great.
Well, you don't even need to do that, because I mean, they've already got so many on the NXT UK roster. You know, like it would just be I think you're right. It'd be a cool thing if you have to go back to the indies and you could actually have one arena that's progress, one that's ICW, one that's evolve. You know, have like a couple of different bonus options. Recreate the electric ballroom. You know, have a bit of fun with that. I think that'd be really cool. A good story mode would be good. I mean, I remember when they brought it back properly for 2K15, and I played through all of that one because it wasn't lengthy. But then I just never bothered with the subsequent releases because it just never looked like... What I hated about it is that it felt like such a grind, because you start off on overall 55 or something.
Sure.
Usually, and you've got to I remember in 2K15, eventually you get to a decent level, but it's right at the very end of the story mode. So it just kind of feels a bit pointless. Like it's a bit too much of a grind, if that makes sense.
I think it sounds like, from what I remember, it felt just a little bit too artificial difficulty, and it got to the point where I would intentionally have to cheese matches doing dumb moves to do so. So I don't think the level up progression like that version has ever worked in these games.
No.
I just think it should just be create your character. And then as you go, it can be okay, well, here are some new moves you've learned. Or here's what it should be, right? At the end of a week or whatever the progression is, it's like, okay, choose a wrestler, a legend, to train you or whatever, you know, go and train with Lance Storm, or go and train with Dean Malenko, or go and train with whoever. And then depending on who they are, it's like, all right, cool, you're going to learn similar moves to them, or this thing will be slightly more skilled or whatever. You could even turn that into the story where it's like, if you choose one of those legends, that's the legend that's going to get attacked the next week or the week after or whatever. And I don't know, it's things that just make sense in a story. And I don't think that, I think that people just say, well, it's just a wrestling game, but I think it's a wrestling game, and the reason we love it is because of the stories and the things that can be told. So I think a story mode needs to come back in proper form, and not you and your sister saying that you're gonna give their grandmother bed sores at the beginning of the game is what happened in 2K20.
Yeah. It was weird. No, I think that's a cool idea. I think that'd be cool even in Greg. Because I remember with one of the story modes, they re-added the idea of before matches you could walk around the arena, you know, and explore and chat to people. Although it ultimately that just amounted to nothing. Like they didn't fully explore that.
It was completely vapid. Yeah, completely vapid.
But I mean, that would be cool. Back if you could have it. Because they did that with the SmackDown Shut Your Mouth, and it worked well because it was more like that was like a hub area, and you could actually interact with wrestlers, and it could lead to stuff. So maybe have that as like a hub area, and like you said with the training thing, maybe there's an option to leave and go to the PC, and that's where you can train and learn new moves or like upgrade your wrestler that way. Sure. And then also just take cue from other games, like maybe have, I don't know if you could really call them side quests, but, you know, you could just be bumping into wrestlers and that could lead to doing a side thing before coming back to the main path of the story.
I think 2K19 somewhat tried that, where it was like, you know, you talk to the Miz backstage and he's like, you want to fucking wrestle? And you could, and then you go back. But it didn't really amount to anything other than that.
Yeah.
Which is just like, if I wanted to do that, I'd do it in quick match. Not really too fussed about this.
Yeah. Because that would be a good way to hide unlockables. Because that just as a quick side, that's one thing I would like to see with when I did that list. Is I want to see unlockables come back, and I don't want it to see it be an ultimate fucking grind to get points to unlock stuff rather than pay for the DLC. Agreed.
Unlockables should definitely not be this VC shit. Unlockables should be like, you defeated the Miz in this amount of time, or you happen to do this thing that, you know, is a secret, or you broke the table this many times, or you did all this, blah, blah, blah. And then it results in, all right, cool. You've unlocked this new gear for this wrestler. You've unlocked a different year version of this wrestler. You've unlocked a new baseball bat that's going to spawn underneath the ring. That's going to look slightly different, or you've unlocked Big Show's big chair that he gets. Dumb shit that feel like unlockables, or even just like lore cards, you know, where it's like, this is the match that happened, and here's a nice picture of their match and everything like that. It's not like, all it is a separate page that just says extras or trophies or whatever, and it's just like, here is a behind the scenes picture of WrestleMania 12, and here's the match that happened, and or here's a poster of a wrestling card that was just a house show in like 1992.
Yeah,
and it's like, cool, that's cool. Give me those kind of unlockables. Don't give me fucking VC coins that I have to grind for, or I guess I can buy it.
Yeah. I mean, because the thing is, like, it's something like an in-game currency to unlock stuff isn't necessarily a terrible idea. Like, they had it in previous WWE games, but when it was the case of, oh, yeah, you needed money to buy 10 legends overall as the unlockable characters, as opposed to what, like, you go on, probably it's like 2K, the last one, 2K20, and, like, every legend, which amounts to nearly, like, 50, is behind that paywall. And then you're right, like, even though any match you play in the game will add to the VC, I think you get, like, what? A couple thousand per match, and you need about like 100,000 just to be able to buy a legend.
Yeah,
like I would legit like to know if people grinded those hours just to unlock everything, or like with like most people, they just paid to get it.
So
did you?
we cheesed it. So what you could do is, I can't remember exactly what it was, but like set up a match that just lasted forever, that no one could finish, and just simulate it for like a day. And
really?
then you'd I can't remember exactly which one it was. It might have been 18, but you could just simulate something forever, and it would just give you unlimited VC. I don't think we just happened upon it at one point, and we were just like, all right, well, that's everything. Cool.
See, I always just took the coward ways. I mean, you already got me this before, but I usually had it on pre-order bonus anyway, or got the thing for like a couple of quid, just because I was like, I can't be arsed. Like, especially because I'm playing by myself, I was like, I can't be arsed grinding. I just want everything now.
That's exactly it though. It's for people who just can't be fucked. I've fallen into the same trap when I'm playing fucking Assassin's Creed or something, and it's just like, this game should not be 100 hours long. Just come on.
Yeah. I think that's a big argument for like another time. It's just the whole thing of grinding games as opposed to like the DLC model of just paying to get it. But I'd like to see that stripped back a bit, so it's not like a complete fucking cash cow money grab to give you everything. I doubt they're going to strip it back though. Like, things like this are not going away anytime soon.
No, only get worse.
Unless you have like a Star Wars Battlefront 2 scenario where the backlash is so big that they had to reel it in.
I mean, the backlash is so big that they killed the game for a year. But I truly believe that it's killed the game for a year so that you can do it all again the next.
Yeah.
Yeah, none of the predatory monetary stuff is going away. If anything, it might come back harder in some respects. Like, you know, it's not even a bad thing as a live service game. I think in some regards, they've attempted this kind of thing, right? As the year would go on, if the game would release, then it'd be like, okay, TLC is this coming whatever, so this month is TLC month, and then if you compete in online, you can unlock TLC things, or like these certain things if you compete in this ladder tournament or whatever. This like,
it was the tower modes kind
tower
of thing,
modes, yeah. That shit's cool. The $1 million one, not cool. That's not. It was not cool.
You don't want a solid gold AJ Styles to play as? That looks creepy as
fuck. For starters, it was very broken, and I got very far on that, but it was broken. I think you're only allowed to do it like once or something. The guy that won...
You had to beat... you had to beat 15 wrestlers as AJ on the tower, right? And you only got like... It was continuous, so you had like same health over and like as you kept going, right?
Yeah, I can't remember. I can't remember. Was the last one gold AJ, or was the last one Seth? I think I got to Seth. Late in it or something, but I can't remember exactly.
No, so I did the 2K19 was the one with AJ on the cover, which is the one that had the golden AJ Styles and the $1 Million Tower, because I wrote about it for the unlockable list.
Yeah, a bit. It was a bit naff, and then the guy, I can't remember on what show it was, but he was on the pre-show playing against AJ, and just AJ was really shit. And the guy was a prick as well. The guy was such a fucking prick, and I think he actually worked for the company.
So it was,
to be clear, like,
wait, he worked for WWE or he worked for 2K?
WWE, I think.
Okay.
I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure. I will need to check, but he was definitely not just some guy off the street type deal who was good at the game. I don't think. I need to check. I'm not gonna say he was a prick though, so whatever. Yeah, that's what I want to see. I also want to see a fucking GM mode. I'd love a fucking good GM mode. That would be great.
It's a bit annoying that we weren't doing this tomorrow because the GM mobile game for AEW is dropping tomorrow. Only time I've been excited for a mobile game release. But you're right. For 2K and like a lot of games, I don't want to see the GM mode come back. Because I think for a lot of people, that's where a lot of the fondest sort of co-op memories are. I know for a fact it was a big thing when you were at the dwelling, right? You used to have some GM mode sessions. We
invited a bunch of people over and we all wore suits for, was it 07? That was ECW, Raw and SmackDown.
2008.
It was 08. We did that. We did that for a day solid where we were just like, making trades and we were like planning out our match cards. There was one match card that Alex did where he put like, I can't remember who it was. It must have been, I think it was Mark Henry. And he had like 6 matches on the card, and every match had Mark Henry. And by the end of it, it was just like he got a text, and it was just like Mark Henry has broken everything. And it's like he'll be out for a year, and he just bought him on like the really high paying contract. And I was like meticulous. I was doing the New Japan route of just like right. Every show before a big show is going to be like, people in tag team matches that are going to then be against each other. And I was just like, okay, planning it out. And then occasionally I'd do like, I'd put tag teams in the main event and it would work every time. And then I'd plan out which of my wrestlers were doing promo shoots and all of this kind of thing to like keep the heel heat up I was just like Rain Man on that shit. I was counting the fucking cards. I was on it. And I'm pretty sure I won by a landslide.
When we finally get a chance to meet up again in person, and I think we need a solid go around on a GM mode. I think when it comes back as well, I'd love to see it have because I think for a lot of people, you can kind of see the view that a universe mode was kind of the next evolution of that, but what was one step forward was several steps backwards. If you took the customization of universe mode and put it in a GM mode, I think that would be perfect. So it's not a case of just picking Raw, SmackDown, or I guess NXT as the 3 main brands. You could actually, again, create your own brand arena, and that'd be the show you're running, and then just make sure there is like a way of monitoring it. So, like what it was like fans and money, you would measure your success, wouldn't it, in GM mode? So bring that back in. I think a good way is just synergizing the two. So if people like universe mode, you can play a universe mode without the pressure of losing because you're not getting any fans, or you can turn it on you can have like competitive side where it is like a more functioning GM mode with all the little gimmicks and stuff to it.
Because obviously in GM mode you weren't able to have any kind of simulation really. The match happened from what I remember.
No, I think you could.
Could you simulate the match? I don't know. We never did, but I think with the proper customization that, like you say, the universe had, if it also had a GM mode over the top, that would be just stellar.
Yeah, I'd like to see them integrate stuff from other ones. So, like, if people have been clamoring for a GM type mode and haven't checked out Fire Pro World yet, they've got a really good mode called Promoter Mode. A lot of it's pretty stripped back, but some of it is a bit more advanced. Like, you have to go into detail of like picking what merchandise you want to sell and how much of it. You get to pick like what size arenas you're booking, and obviously depending on your success, you also pick which part of the world you're booking in as well, and depending on how your popularity is there, you might have to book smaller arenas. You can change the ticket prices. So there is something like that would be pretty, maybe a bit too advanced. But I mean, if that option was there, I'd enjoy that because I've really enjoyed that mode, even if it is pretty tough.
Yeah.
But
have they announced what is happening with the GM mode for AEW tomorrow? Is it?
No.
Do I pay a set fee or is it free? Because if it's free, I don't want it.
That's the thing, because if it's free, it's going to be basically pay to win, isn't it? Like this is the thing I've discovered with mobile games. If I have to pay for it, I'm fine. Because I mean, what you pay £4, and that's it. That's yours. You don't have to worry about like other shit. But if it's free, then I imagine there's going to be a lot of pay to win shenanigans.
Yeah, the truth is, like, as much as I'm a big fan of AEW,
yeah,
I think that this is going to be a very pay to win weird thing. Like, I don't even know how you compete, but there's going to be some kind of competition thing going on. Like, if you and I just link up our GM modes and it's like, oh, here's the leaderboards, then sure, whatever. And we're able to make trades, then yeah. But if it's like buy shit to do shit, I don't know.
I could see it be, if it's free, I can see it being a bit like the WWE card game. Like, you might get maybe 1 or 2 good wrestlers, and then the rest is like, you say, a grind, and you just have to buy pack after pack to get like. I mean, I don't know I don't know if it's like you get different versions of the same wrestler in this, or if you just get the one version and
right, like a variant of that wrestler who's like all right,
like a shiny Orange Cassidy. I don't know. I can't see anything that mentions if it's going to be free or if you have to pay. So take that with what you will. I mean, hopefully it's at least. Hopefully it's not. If it is free, it's not too bad of a pay to win. But I'm with you. I'll probably download it tomorrow and immediately go, well, they want me to drop £10 just to get some coins, and I'm not about that. I mean,
I tell you what, I'll do the same thing that I did with MGF coin, which was an obvious pump and dump. I will invest. How much did I invest in MGF coin? $50. I'm not going to do that much again on this, but I'll do at least 10. I'll do at least 10, and I'll see what the crack is. I mean, but
what we'll do, you and me for sure, we'll download the game when it comes out tomorrow, and then we'll play it, and we'll do some feedback next week on what we thought about it. I mean, it's got to be better than the casino game, which was just a basic.
It was just casino. There was nothing about it that was anything other than that. They just reskinned a casino game.
Yeah, which is why they probably were able to release that on the day they announced it, because they probably just bought some obscure casino game and went, all right, just stick our logo on it.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, we'll get back to that. But yeah, a GM mode for sure. I want to see a new one. I think one of the last things I want to see is either I can't decide if I want it removed or I want it improved, going back to overalls and attributes in games, because in the 2K things, it never always made sense. Like, you could have a wrestler that it would always be the case, like the main event wrestlers, the big names would always be a stupidly high, like 90 overall. But then you could like the NXT guys who their main eventers would be like in the low 80s, like sometimes the 70s, and it just didn't make sense to me. Like, I'd rather maybe strip away that kind of system.
I think
it back to how it used to be.
I think it's misleading, as is. Because
it doesn't fit. Like, it rarely fits the wrestler. Like, a lot of good wrestlers are like a stupidly low overall simply for the fact that they're just not on TV much.
I think what it is the overall doesn't work as a measurement. I think it needs to be as in depth as it already is without this just number that tells people. Because now, like, the way it works is when we played the game, we'd all put each other just at 90. We'd do the stats to level up to 90, and that's not going like, okay, put 90 into a column and you're at 90. There's like 50 different stats, and what that would involve is like, all right, well, my grappling is 100, my this is 100, and I think that's the same with any other wrestler. With the 90 overall or 100 overall doesn't make sense, because you could still get fucking whooped by like goddamn
like the Undertaker, which was always 96 kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably still whoop the Undertaker if your submissions were 100, because your submissions are probably way better than his submission defense, which is, I assume, like probably quite high, probably like 85, 90. But like even so, it just doesn't work.
I think they just need to get rid of that. I think the way to do it is keep some of the advancements they've got, because obviously back in the days of like the 90s, you could pick a Rey Mysterio and he could lift Big Show over his head in a game. But as they moved on, they added the whole weight physics kind of thing. So you could keep that, but just get rid of the overall. So at least if you're cruiserweight wrestling at super heavyweight, it's still got that element of realism to it, but there is still a chance you could actually win. I
think what you do is I keep the overall, I guess, in a sense, as a video game, but like give people the top trumps of it. Just a little bit of they're like, yeah, this person's 90 overall and your guy is 70 overall, but your guy has like 90 speed and he's got like 80 speed.
That makes sense.
So like you got something going on.
So at least it fits more of that wrestler's style, what they're good at, and at least they've got a chance to use that skill rather than being dominated by a high-ranking one. When you put a number on something, it sounds so. What would the word be? Be all end all, right? When people listen to Dave Meltzer's scores like that, be all end all, but they're just an opinion. And in a video game like that 90 is also. Like the Miz is probably a higher score because he's got 100 in talking, and it's like that's not really going to help you during a match. So there you go. Oh well, there you go. Excuse me. Anything else you want to see added to the new WWE game, or do you want to move on?
Anything else I want to see? No DLC characters.
No DLC. I'd like to see. I like how every year they keep adding to the roster. So I'd hope to see. Well, I hope to see more inclusions from things like NXT UK, because there's like great talent there. Because like on the last game they only added like there's about 6 representing that, when we could have had people like Ilya Dragunov and Volt, and a lot of good people on it. So
for me, it's like I don't want to see a wrestler added that isn't already on the roster. They've culled the roster quite a lot, to be honest with you, and they've got the models, they've got the mocap, they've got so much to take already, which they are going to, because they're not going to completely rehaul the entire game.
I was going to say, how much do you think the recent cuts have affected development? Because I used to hear, I don't know if this is true, a roster would be finalized for a game after WrestleMania. That was a word I heard, that once WrestleMania passed, that was whatever was on the roster then was most likely going to be featured in the game. And I feel like maybe this has sort of hindered them a little bit, because like WWE has cut names on an unprecedented level this year. I wonder how much that has affected the development of the game.
It's probably within contracts or an add-on or a bonus, where it's just like, you are going to be in the game. You have to do a little bit of work for the game, or you have to promote the game, and we're going to put you in it. So here's a little bit extra. And if they've done that, they're going to put them in there. I wouldn't be surprised if they're finalized around WrestleMania. To do a lot more work on each person's mocap takes a while. So makes sense. I don't want to see things that I think are very clearly just things that you just removed from the game. They're like, that you're just adding as DLC, which has happened quite a few times, where it's like, you've just not added that into the game. That's not DLC. That's just removed content, which is a standard practice now in video games, and it can fuck itself. But
I mean, DLC can be good if it's like done right, like something like where it's worth, like, I mean, and limited. So something like when The Last of Us, the first Last of Us game, had the story add-on, and it's called Left Behind. Like, that was good DLC. I don't think it was that expensive, and it was actually a proper addition to the story. You like learned a lot of backlog to Ellie. But yeah, when it's something like, like the new DLC, you get a Southpaw regional wrestling ring, and all the wrestlers that are already in the game now come in a different version where they're wearing a wacky outfit. It's just not worth it.
No, it's a little bit weird and a little bit out there. I mean, with was it 2K20 where they were just like, all right, here's the Mad Max DLC? Why?
Basically, yeah. I mean,
Why?
here's the thing. I like that they try and add a bit of out the box fun to it, but that stuff just felt a bit too out of the way for the kind of game it was. You know what I mean? Like, it was like how there was one of those where you basically unlocked. There's like Sheamus dressed up as Shawn from Shaun of the Dead, and you had about like 5 different wrestler character models now as zombies. And basically an arena you would never really pick because it was just a bit too cheesy. So
Yeah.
I don't mind DLC as long as it makes sense and it feels worth it. It's not just like, oh, here's some characters we could have put in the game, but we wanted you to pay an extra $10.
I'm not gonna pay. I'm not gonna pay $10 for some. Well, I don't know. We'll see. I'll probably buy it, but I'll bitch about it. I don't know.
Well, kind of sticking. We'll move on a bit. So sticking with I guess the SmackDown and 2K series overall. Any interesting glitches that have ever happened to you? Because that was kind of a big thing with basically the entire series has always been known for having glitches. Fair enough, that went a bit too far with 2K20 because the game was basically unfinished and broken. But sometimes it would be quite funny seeing what glitches would pop up in new titles. So have you ever had any kind of funny or interesting glitches happen?
Every game you'd play of that, especially when you just simulate it for a while. The game just doesn't work. Those games don't work. And that's fine because it was part of the charm. However, after 4 years of it, fix some of it, please. Let's say, God, what? We played a tables game that never ended because it was impossible to break tables. There are glitches that happen that are just physically impossible to describe. Like your character would become spiritually linked with the ladder, and then wherever you moved, the ladder would also move, not carrying it, just at your feet. The ladder was there, and if you got linked on the ladder, you'd run at light speed, and you could break the bounds of the ring. And there was a point where I was out of the ring and I was going miles away, and the camera was just panning out into the abyss, and just over here was the stadium, and I was way over here.
So one of my favorite glitches that ever happened. So kind of talking about before. One of the cool things was growing up, I didn't have many mates who were fans of wrestling, sorry, but they did playing the video games. I think that's one of the things the video games are cool as. Even if you don't like wrestling, you can teach them the basic controls, put them in a Royal Rumble. They're gonna have a fun time. It got down to me and my mate William, and I can't remember. I think I might have been Stone Cold at that point because I'd been eliminated. He was Booker T. And what happened was, it looked like William was going to win. We were the last two. He Irish whipped me into the ropes, but rather than rebound off the ropes, my character just kept running through the air into the crowd. And then the next thing I know, I materialized back in the ring, and for some reason, he's outside the ring, and I won the Rumble match. He was so pissed.
I think I see that as a completely legal move. I think that's completely fair.
I don't know how I did it, but I won. I take that victory. You see?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those games don't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Those kind of things are funny, but when it is properly game breaking, which it can be, it's just
when it's
such a fucking ball ache.
Like Becky Lynch not having a face and it's just 2 eyes and a mouth. That's when you've got to be it was just so ridiculous how broken 2K20 was.
Yeah,
I mean, fair enough. Ukes left midway through development. 2K had no idea how it was programmed and just went to one of the studios and went, make this. We still have to hit the deadline, and they were already 6 months out.
Yeah, I just don't think any funding is being given to them. Comparatively to their other titles, I don't think any money is going through the wrestling division, which is sad.
I mean, so this is kind of going to move on to next. Was that a bit because like we said a lot, we're in an interesting time of wrestling where there's so much more available, and now WWE doesn't feel like the only show in town. Go back a few years ago, like with wrestling on TV, its effect of being the only show in town was felt everywhere, including video games. Realistically, WWE was the only kind of video game coming out, to my knowledge, besides the odd low-key title. Now we've got quite a few coming up, and it looks like, just like on TV, we're going to be seeing video games actually competing for better wrestling titles. Would you agree?
Yeah, it's the exact same thing that's happening with wrestling right now. Is more competition is breeding better wrestling, at least on AEW, and same thing's going to happen with wrestling games. They're going to like this is. I think that's why they took a break. Really, is because they knew it was coming.
Yeah.
And I would have done the same. Like, you don't want to be shown up. They're most likely going to, pull the release date forward or back depending on when the release date of AEW is. They will want to beat that. They will beat that by a week.
And might be on that because, like, usually at this point we have a release date. I'll double check, but I don't think we've got one for 2K22.
No.
But then again, they are looking to release it this year. I don't think the AEW game's coming out this year.
No, most likely
that's at least
not.
Year.
But I think they're just trying to be very cautious about everything. And if it is next year, we're going to see something very brutal going on with the, with the release date. They will either try and release it the same day, the week before, anything they can to undercut. So we'll see. Yeah. We will see. It'd be very interesting. I would love them to release on the same day. And my, part of my brain is like, and then AEW will win, but it won't. It will not, because
you don't think the AEW game would win?
It doesn't. I don't think. The thing is, when you think about adverts, we don't believe we're swayed too much by adverts. And I don't believe I am too badly swayed by adverts. I sometimes notice that I'm like, I watch a thing and I'm like, I would like that thing. However, adverts work more than anything, and it's because of like grandparents going out and being like, he likes the wrestling, he likes the WWs, so I'll give him that one. They won't know the AEWs, so
I mean, I don't know. You say that though, and it was like I said a couple of weeks ago when it was just after Christmas, and I was in Smith's picking up an action figure order. There was a little kid there with his family, clearly spending his Christmas money. So I think there is definitely a market of kids who watch it, which is where a lot of video games will go. I wish you though. I think they'll have a bit of a, if the game's released very close to each other, there will be a little bit of a battle there, and WWE will pick them because
I mean they aim for because the biggest video game markets are like November, kind of mid to late September to November, and then early December, because it's clearly for the Christmas market, right?
Yes.
That's where most of the money happens in video games, and especially a game like this, which is just it's based on an existing IP, which is a TV show that kids watch, and it's going to be bought by parents, it's going to be bought by grandparents, uncles, aunts, and they're just going to pick up a WWE thing because it will have more marketing, most likely. There'll be far more budget going into that than there will be on AEW. AEW, I think, are going to do quite well. There's going to be a big core fan thing going on, and if it gets good reviews as well, then it's going to spread a little bit more. I still don't think it's going to do as well as WWE do.
Here's what I'm thinking. By the way they've been hyping it up and talking about what's involved, they're clearly trying to aim for that the same demographic that they win during the week, the 18 to 49, because like the whole build up to this was like, oh yeah, we've been looking at No Mercy, trying to bring what made that game to the forefront. They've got the same developer, they've got you, so they're trying to aim for the more all the nostalgic wrestling fan who maybe grew up with that game and have been wanting, because like there are a lot of people who would say wrestling games didn't get better after No Mercy, that is still the best one. They're probably aiming for that market to try and be like, well, we were heavily influenced by it, we've got the same developer, we're trying to recapture that magic. That's where I think they're going to try and get a lot better sales from.
Yeah, we'll see how it pays off. I think that people talk about wanting an arcadey style back, like No Mercy, but depending on how far down that route they go, I don't personally believe that there has to be a balance, and I think personally I quite like the simulation style myself.
I do as well. But I don't know, because I mean, again, like when we posted the stuff on Instagram of our favorite games, I picked Virtual Pro Wrestling 2, which is essentially the Japanese No Mercy. it's arcadey, but I still think it's the right mix of arcadey and simulation for me,
Sure.
which is why I guess people like them. So as long as they hit on that, I think a good balance between the two, so the game's still fun and it's not just complete. Like it's not just completely all about the simulation, which I think. I mean, the thing is, like when they first announced the AW game and they showed that first trailer, I did not like the art style they were going with, like the designs. But then when they released the Darby Allin footage, I was swayed a little bit. Like the gameplay does look pretty sick. So I guess it's kind of wait and see with that one until we get to see more proper finalized footage. But I think you and me for sure will probably enjoy it. I think we're the kind of key market on that one.
Oh yeah. Oh, we'll be doing playthroughs on here, I'm sure.
Hell yeah. But it's not just those two. There's another wrestling game I'm quite interested in. I want to see how it's going to pan out. Have you heard of the Wrestling Code it's now going by?
No, I have not. Let me have a look at that.
You might be interested. I'll just kind of explain a bit. It's by developer Virtual Basement. I recognize the name, but I can't remember what they've done. Essentially, it's going to be an upcoming game, and they've basically signed a lot of independent wrestling talent as well as some legends, and they're really trying to push about being like the next big game in the market. So people like Rob Van Dam have signed up for the roster, EC3, Elijah Burke, Leo Rush, Matt Seidel. There's a lot of people that are signed to AEW and New Japan, but because they're a bit more open. But it's got quite an impressive roster. Do you want me to link you to the roster page?
No, I'm having a look at it now.
Oh, okay, cool. So this kind of interests me. Yeah. So it's got people like Jonathan Gresham, the Sandman. It looks like it's going for the right blend of like names they can get at the moment that are somewhat known, and then a lot of sort of nostalgia pop names, I suppose.
Well, the trailer is just names. All right.
Yeah. They've got like no gameplay. I think there's footage of them. Of what the wrestlers will look like when finalized. Just like generic graphic shots, no actual footage, but it's one that it's very unknown.
That's definitely something I'll pick up though, no matter what. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I wonder. I do wonder if that's gonna. I don't know how well that would do, but.
Again, like demographics key. That isn't the game kids will be wanting, but
no
nerds like you and me. I'm just trying to see because I'm sure I know the name of the developer from something. Let's see what they've done in the past. If they've got any good actual pedigree.
They say it's going to only release on next-gen consoles, PS5 and Series X.
And PC. As well.
Yeah. Okay.
They did. It's the same studio that did Ark Survival Evolved. Oh no, they were partnered doing that. They were partnered.
All right. Okay.
That's the only game I recognize.
That's a little bit of a mess of a game, looking wise, but it's made a lot of money, so. Okay, well, yeah, I'll definitely get that.
Yeah, I don't know what to give it out for. I think that's kind of it. I mean, there's a couple of other things coming on the calendar, but they're kind of the key ones I did want to pick up on there. Anything else you kind of want to mention there, just about any video games in general? Anything that we've covered so far?
Not particularly. I think video games and wrestling are such a good pair, and I hope we see a golden age of them. Because I think that while WWE's games have gone downhill, that kick in the ass from AEW could be just fucking perfect. And if New Japan smell what The Rock is cooking, and we get a New Japan roster game, and then we get like a crossover. Can you stop growling? What do you want? Come here. Up. Come on. Come here. If we get a New Japan game as well, and then fuck it, an Impact game, sure.
I don't think they're at that popularity anymore.
No,
I mean, they could get back there, but who knows?
Yeah, it would be great if we got just an influx of lovely, fun wrestling games. I would love that.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think we might be on the cusp of a new golden age where we're not just going to have a WWE game as being the only show in town. We'll actually have, obviously, AEW. We've got the wrestling code, and then there is a bunch of more in development as well. And things that have already come out, like what was it, Retro Arcade Mania, whatever it's called, the spiritual successor to WrestleFest.
Yeah.
Had lately stuff. Yeah. They've had stuff like that. So it's on the horizon. I think that might do it for today. Unless there's anything else you want to add?
No, that's perfect. It's lovely, and it's. Oh wait, hold on.
Oh,
Hold up the magazine.
All right, well, that's everything.
And on that note, if you want to follow us on the channels, guys, it's the Bearhug Club Podcast, Facebook and YouTube, Bearhug Club Pod on Instagram, and Bearhug Club on Twitter. And if you want to come find us at the website, that's bearhugpod.wixsite.com/bearhugclouds. As I mentioned in the episode, I've been writing a couple of different articles, trying to get more into that side of things. So there's an article about the top 10 bizarre unlockable characters in wrestling video games to check out, as well as a through the years of strange wrestling games, shall we say. Very bizarre entries. But yeah, next week, I believe we're going to be talking about the return of fans. Is it a good thing now that they are coming back in force? Is it too soon? We'll also just talk about, I guess, our favorite fan memories as well. But until then, take it easy, guys. See you next time.
Mwah.